Now, former Zimbabwean opposition leader Nelson Chamisa says he has returned to active politics, citing growing public calls for accountable and effective leadership in the country. Chamisa made the announcement after stepping aside in 2023 as leader of the Citizens Coalition for Change, following prolonged internal party disputes and leadership tensions. He has now unveiled what he calls Agenda 2026, a citizen-driven political movement aimed at confronting what he describes as a deepening governance crisis marked by disputed elections, corruption and state capture. Chamisa says the initiative is not just about party politics, but restoring democratic values and giving citizens a stronger voice in national decision-making. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by political analyst Makomborero Haruzivishe. Thank you so much for joining us. What is the significance of Nelson Chamisa's return to active politics at this time, and how will it reshape Zimbabwe's political landscape, in your opinion?
Nelson Chamisa's return is significant in that he is charismatic. It's significant because he enjoys the widest support base within opposition circles. So his return is important because Zimbabwe at this point, it is important for opposition forces to take initiative well ahead of elections and to take initiatives to stop the ruling parties and PF from extending the presidential term limit from what they call the Agenda 2030. But what is most important now, with also concerns by ordinary Zimbabweans and Zimbabweans from other spheres of the socio-economic and political atmosphere, is that his return, it needs to also indicate a marked shift in terms of how the opposition will be composed. Of course, he has mentioned about forming a movement instead of a party, and I will have to admit, as per my analysis, that yes, the best way forward to go now is movements are needed in Zimbabwe. Why? Because movements are the backbone of the opposition. If we check the former, opposition, EF-White party led by the late Dr. Morgan Richard Trankai, it came into formation, the party's Movement for Democratic Change, through a people's convention where movements from various walks of life converged in 1999. So this is what is needed now. Movements are needed in order to create and reenact the new social base, to consolidate the current social base. Because, for example, the labor movement, which was the main pillar of Dr. Trankai's MDC, is decimated the former, employment-based trade unions. Now there's higher unemployment rate in the range of 90%. So there needs to be movement that deal with socio-economic issues, day-to-day levels, issues of the people. And that's why I say that his call for movements is necessary. Now also faced with the postponement of presidential term limits under the Agenda 2030 by the Zimbabwean ruling parties and PF. Movements are needed, and they are already being formed. We saw there's platforms to defend the constitutions that are coming on. They will create also, a contributory factor to the wider democratic movement that is needed as Zimbabweans defend the constitution, firstly, and also secondly, challenge the ZANU-PF government to replace it with the people's government come 2028 elections.
Okay, but then what major challenges would you say that Chamisa would face in rebuilding trust and consolidating support after stepping away in 2023?
The issues that led to him stepping away can be traced to an opposition that had fragmented, an opposition that didn't have structures, that was structureless, an opposition that didn't have ideology, an opposition that didn't have platforms of collective decision-making. It clearly had an impact in as far as failure of systems to provide internal dispute resolution in the party, the failure for, the party supporters and members to come up with a similar policy decisions or even on ideology. So now the heroes that are there are his second coming, him indicating the need to come up with a social movement, with a movement. Zimbabweans are still concerned about whether the progression of his coming yet again will be marked by lack of those structured systems. Will it be marked by lack of an opposition that doesn't have formalities in terms of ideology, formalities in terms of structures, systems, and work plan that is systematic, like a formal institution that is challenging, that is a government in waiting, that can give confidence that this is really a government in waiting. They are concerned about also in terms of unity within the wider political opposition movement in Zimbabwe. So these hurdles, I am sure you maybe address them in coming, and failure to do so, yes, consequences. Of course, it will be indicated by how people turn out, whether be it in defense of the constitution or how people turn out, be it in terms of elections. Because lack of confidence from the people has impacted the 2013 election due to, low voter turnouts and everything.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us and lending your voice to this. We will see how his return since 2023 would impact the political landscape and whether it will at all. Thank you once again for joining us.